Hey everybody, it's Mark Schultz here, and welcome back to the 2020 Digital Aircraft Recovery and Aviation Virtual Summit. Larry, glad to have you back with me again.
Hey, here we are again, Mark. Glad to be with you.
Top of the hour with our next session. Hey, listen, everybody, I'm really excited about this broadcast that we have today because we're actually doing a simulcast right now, and I have with me Fabrizio Poli. Fabrizio, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you for inviting me, Mark, and thank you, Larry.
Fabrizio is passionate about business jets, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and Fabrizio has an amazing YouTube channel, which is called BizJet TV. And I don't know, Fabrizio, how many followers do you have of that channel?
Just short of 12,000 followers. And
12,000.
Yeah, almost 2 million views, yeah, in total.
2 million, that's great. And congratulations for that, because I don't have that, okay? But what's exciting is Fabrizio agreed to do a simulcast today, and we just verified that the broadcast that we're doing is actually broadcasting both on BizJet TV as well as all the platforms we have. And so welcome, all of you out there on BizJet TV, welcome, and I appreciate Fabrizio allowing us to do this broadcast today on his really well-watched channel. Thank you, Fabrizio.
You're welcome.
Good. Hey, listen, just a couple of quick administrative things right now while we're getting going here. I just want to invite you is that this broadcast can be viewed in a lot of different places. And if you're watching it on Fabrizio's channel, stay there, okay? Do not leave, all right? But for the rest of you out there that might be watching it on a different platform, if you're on LinkedIn or some other places, we want you to go over to our website, the platform which has an agenda, which is live.recoveryandaviation.com. And the reason we're doing that is because there's an agenda there, and you can see all the different speakers that we've had in the Recovery and Aviation Virtual Summit. And we're on day 2. We're in the middle of day 2 right now. On day 1, we had a whole series of speakers all day long. I think we had 12 hours, Larry, or?
Yeah,
12 hours yesterday, and I think we have 18 hours today and 15 hours tomorrow. And basically, we're going hour after hour. We're bringing leaders in the industry into the broadcast, speaking specifically to recovery and aviation. Now, Fabrizio has such a powerful message that revolves around business jets and the impact in business jets. I just had to have him, on this broadcast. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Is we're going to talk about business jets. All right. So Fabrizio, let's just jump right in and let's just have a discussion about business jets. I want to start by asking you, what are you seeing happening in the industry today, in the aviation industry as a whole, and how does that sort of channel itself down into business jets today?
Well, we saw just yesterday Delta Airlines lay off 1,900 pilots. We've seen Emirates lay off about 800, Virgin Atlantic. And, the reason why the airlines are laying pilots off is because now that the government subsidies are ending, these airplanes that were parked are now starting to go back in the air, but not that many people are going back into flying. So the airlines are eliminating certain routes, eliminating a lot of frequency on certain routes. So they don't need as many staff anymore. So they're getting rid of pilots and flight attendants and all that. People are going back to flying, but as I did say on an episode of BizJet TV a few weeks ago, someone pitched up at Manchester Airport here in the UK a few weeks ago to get on a 2-hour flight. It took them 5 hours to get from the car park to the gate to do a 2-hour flight. And I don't know how long it took them once they got the other end in Palma de Mallorca to get out of the airport into the car park there. So what's happening now is people will be going back to flying. But the other phenomenon, because people have discovered Zoom and they discovered they could do, virtual meetings, and virtual meetings can save you stacks of time and saves you a lot of money as well. They are very effective. And so people are thinking, well, why should I launch out halfway across the world on an airplane, risk catching a virus, and it takes up stacks of time and money when I can do a Zoom call? Now, I'm not saying people aren't going to fly anymore, but that's one side of the thing that's happening. Then you've got the other side of these ultra high net worth individuals, and there's over 514,000 according to the recent Knight Frank Wealth report that came out April this year. Basically, these are people that are worth more than $30 million. Now, only 3.5% of these people actually own a private jet. And the others that can, but haven't up until now, are starting to realize, well, maybe I should start chartering. And so, I've picked up a few charters recently, and friends of mine have been chartering around the world, families that have never flown private before. And these families are getting their feet wet with charters, and some are inquiring about buying jets. We've seen now the small jet market starting to move. And we're also seeing a lot more inquiries for the large jet, the Global Expresses, the Gulfstream G550s. But those are inquiries at the moment because there's still quarantine measures in place in places like Hong Kong, Singapore, no travel between UK and US right now. And there's a lot of Gulfstreams flying back and forth over the Atlantic every day. That traffic's not happening at the moment, but that traffic will resume as soon as the lockdown and the quarantines are finished, because more people are starting to look at this as a means of travel. And certainly BizJet TV has gained more subscribers over the last few months. I've been getting more calls than usual of people wanting to find out how this whole private jet thing works. So I see, that there's a bright future ahead for business aviation.
Yeah. So Fabrizio,
I would just add that I think where that at the corporate level, that just might be at the C series guys, but it's flowed down maybe to the director level, because they're just saying that's a better way for my employees to fly, even if they're maybe at the director or senior manager level.
Yeah, very true. I mean, it's not, people think private jet is used by, top managers and super billionaires and stuff like that. But what they don't realize, most of the people using the private jets are using them as a business tool. And now it's not only seen as a business tool, it's seen as, a tool that keeps your people healthy and safe. But as people have been looking into it for let's say health reasons, they've been discovering that it's also very beneficial for business reasons, because it saves you stacks of time. You can get into more airports. You control the schedule of the airplane. There's all those pluses as well. And as people have been at home and locked in their homes, they've had more time to research. Hence, they've been coming to BizJet TV. Because if you Google private jets on YouTube, you come across one of my 300 videos.
Fantastic.
Hey, Fabrizio, I wanted to just mention real quick is that when we started this broadcast, we just kind of jumped right in because we were excited to, talk about business jets, but we really didn't tell people anything about your background. And so I think that it would be important for us to sort of touch on the viewers that have been watching our summit is that, what's your background and what really brings you to this conversation of business jets? Just tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Well, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. And so there were two routes. I'd either be a scientist or pilot. So I decided to go down the pilot route. Then I eventually did meet some astronauts and found out that, it was quite boring sitting in an aluminium tube orbiting Earth. I was born in 1969 when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. So I honestly thought that by the time I was 50, which is where I sit now, we would have been going to the moon, Mars and beyond, but that's not even happened. So I decided to move into aviation and fly. So I got my private pilot's license before my driver's license. Then it took me a few years to get the money together to then train to be a commercial pilot. And I qualified as a jet captain at 22, flew private jets, and I qualified at the wrong time, really. It was 1992, just after the first Gulf War. So a lot of airlines were laying pilots off. And here I am, a young kid with like 350 hours, looking for a job. But, I was lucky enough to be able to start flying a private jet, and I started managing the aircraft for the owners. I then got involved in FBO management, and I did that for about 5 years. I managed to also flight operations side of a couple of air taxi operators, did air ambulance. I did everything you could do around the private jet space until I got into the airlines. Flew for the airlines for about 12, 13 years, then got bored with that and thought I needed to do something different with my life and combine my passion for business and my passion for airplanes together. So I set up a private jet sales company and did that for about 6 years. And then my business partner and I wanted to take different directions with the business. So I decided to leave. And now I've just set up a new company called Kaizen Aerospace. And we're in the process of buying companies. So we're a holding company. We're buying companies not only in the private jet space, private jet charter companies. We're looking at maintenance, but we're looking at drones, and we're looking at stuff that goes into space as well, because that's another interesting market. And so that's where I am today. So we're going to be providing things like leases on private jets, as well as sales, refurbishing of private jets, all that kind of thing, because we have to cater for this new market, these new individuals coming into the market that maybe aren't quite ready to buy. So why not lease a jet for 12 months? We'll deliver it to your local airport. We'll put your logo on the airplane for the term of the lease. We'll fly it for you. You just have to ring us up, tell us when you need to fly, and we'll take you wherever you need to go in the world and help you use this business tool to grow your business, because that's what it is.
Yeah, well, that definitely was helpful, because I just wanted people to understand, where does your background in aviation come from? And when you're talking about business jets, I mean, have you ever even flown one before? Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I've flown Citations, I've flown Falcon 900, King Airs, Turbo Commanders, and then Dornier 328s and Boeing 737s. And airline wise, I stopped at that. I was offered to go on the 777, but I looked at my buddies that were ahead of me and looked at the bigger airplane, and they all said, it's great for the first 6 months, then it gets extremely boring. So I thought, you know what, I've got a family, I've got 4 kids. I don't want to really be spending my time in jet lag land in the next few years, and my kids not know who I am or where I go, whatever. So my family for me is more important than my career. And so that's why I opted to go into the business side of aviation.
Fantastic. That's good. Well, listen, so we started talking a little bit about the industry, and you let us know a little bit of your background that lets us know, how you got into really understanding this business jet world, basically by selling them and flying them and, and being involved in consulting or in and around them. So let's kind of come back to what the business problems are. So as we're talking about business jets, or as we're talking about the aviation industry, and people are making decisions basically to go down into buying business jets right now, can we talk just for a few minutes about the reasons why people would do that? Why are people, I know we talked about it a little bit, but can we talk a little bit about why people are making decisions to move into business jets today?
Well, the thing is, if you have to send, 3 or 4 of your executives out somewhere on a business meeting, if they're going to go with the airlines, first of all, you've got to book them in. It takes a long time to get through the terminal, talking 5 hours now. And I think that 5 hours is going to be pretty much standard. It's a bit like after 9/11. I mean, before 9/11, you could pitch up 40 minutes before your flight and you get on the flight. Then they introduce all these security measures. Now they're going to introduce all these antivirus measures in the airports. So more and more companies now are looking at, why don't we just charter a private jet for this trip? And that way we can get our guys out, 2 meetings in 2 different cities at the same day and back home for dinner. So this is what's happening now. More companies are looking at this as an alternative. First of all, they're trying to say, well, do we really need to have to make the trip? Can we do this on a Zoom call? And you get to a point where if you can have a one-to-one meeting, by all means do have it. And that's really, really important. And I think, during lockdown, you couldn't have a meeting. But if you do go out and say to people, look, I'm going to come and see you, or alternatively, I'm sending my private jet out to come and pick you up, to come and visit me. That's another thing that a lot of people don't think about. When they think about buying a private jet, they're always thinking about, buying the airline ticket, getting on the plane themselves and flying from A to B. They don't realize that when you actually have a jet, whether it's leased or you bought the jet, you can actually send that jet out to pick somebody up and bring them in to see you. So we're seeing more and more of this. But, the thing is, people need to be educated. They need to understand, people that go into private aviation, they know nothing about airplanes. It's not like the airline guys. I mean, the airline guys, whether you work for Lufthansa, American Airlines, or British Airways, you understand airplanes because that's what you do. But when the business person decides to buy a plane, most of the time they know nothing about planes. And that's where they need to seek professional advice, because the amount of horror stories that are out there, and I could sit all day long telling you, or probably all week long, telling you the horror stories out there. And there are a couple of videos on BizJet TV about the private jet horror story 1 and horror story 2. And there's a lot more to come as well. So it's important to seek professional advice. And it all starts with trying to understand your business in order to be able to understand what's the best airplane for you. Because people come to me with one idea, say, I want to buy a Gulfstream G450, or I want to buy a Learjet, or I want to buy this. And very often enough, they get it wrong. And then I ask them a set of questions and I take them through a certain process to then come up with the best solution. Because the last thing I want to do is just sell you a plane. Now, I want to make sure that whatever I sell you is going to work for you as a business tool that's going to help you grow your business and that's going to help you peak perform. Because that's what it's all about. It's about peak performance. It's about giving you more time. You're buying peak performance and time. You're not buying a plane. And that's what I tell everybody.
So, hey, Fabrizio, what are the key factors that somebody should be considering in whether or not they should purchase an airplane versus maybe lease an airplane?
Well, of course, if you're going to buy a plane, you need about, I was talking to a gentleman the other day, he's got a $20 million budget. He could probably squeeze up to 22 million. And, he has to do long range flights. And so we were debating, do we buy a newer Global 6000 or do we go for a Global XRS, which is a bit less? So at the end, when I did the analysis, finding out where he went, how often he went, how much he was going to fly, how many people on board, and what his preferences were for interiors, was he claustrophobic or not? When we got all these elements out and we suddenly had all these parameters on the table, it was quite easy to figure out that, going for the Global XRS, which is an older airplane, it's only got 2,800 hours on it. So, I mean, old as in age, but, only 2,800 hours for an airplane is hardly anything. And that's the solution. You can get one for anywhere between 13 to 15 million. And I said, I'm going to make you spend less money also because It's your first airplane. Now, in this case, the gentleman has the capital to buy the airplane. But sometimes you may have someone come to the table with maybe $5 or $6 million, but they do need the airplane that has that range. So I say to them, look, let's do this, because I think if you have an airplane available 24/7, you will grow your business over the next 12 months. So let's do an operational lease, which will cost you about 8-9 million a year all in. Okay. But you're not having to spend 20 million on acquiring the aircraft. And so that's the other thing. And sometimes people aren't going to fly as much. And so, like another gentleman I did a consultancy call with a few weeks ago, and in the end, I told him to go to NetJets because he was only going to fly less than 50 hours a year. He lives in Austria. His son lives in New York, and they both wanted to use the airplane. So fractional ownership with NetJets made sense because they could use the airplane on the same day. There were two different airplanes. But
Fabrizio, was that the key deciding factor? Was the utilization, how much they wanted to use it? Was that the main factor that you said?
Well, the two factors were the fact that it was low utilization, so under 50 hours, and the fact there was two of them in two different parts of the world.
Okay.
Wanting to buy in.
I really like that approach. You're really working through the requirements first before making the buy decision, and let the requirements determine, what direction you're going to go. That's just a solid business approach.
Well, it's important, you see, because if I had sold the guy an airplane that he didn't need, I would have made a lot of money.
Yep.
But then 6 months down the line, he would have complained because he wouldn't have got what he needed. And so for me, it's all about what the client needs. It's not about me. It's about you and what you need. And the only way I'm going to find out what you need is if we have a one-to-one conversation. People ping me questions on BizJet TV and they say, what would you recommend? Should I buy this? Should I buy that? And I answer, I know nothing about you. I know nothing about your business. And I can't get, there's two people may have the same requirement. They need to fly between London and New York. Okay. And I may give one airplane to one guy and a different airplane to another guy. Why? Because they're two different people, two different types of business, two different types of philosophy. And so you need to tune in and try and understand. Seek first to understand, then be understood, as Stephen Covey said in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that's exactly the principle that I apply here in this business.
So Fabrizio, what's the economy like for purchasing of airplanes right now? What's happening out there? Are people buying airplanes? Are they putting them into completion? Are they selling airplanes? Are they leasing them? And what's happening with the economy of business jets out there today?
Well, I'll be very honest. The market is slow right now. Business jet sales of large jets are down 46%, and compared to last year. And that's simply because of lockdown. People are saying, I need to buy a jet, but if I buy one now, I can't use it, or I can go very few places. So I'm going to wait. And so, sales have been slow. But in saying that, we haven't seen a big surge of airplanes coming on the market. We've got about 10.5% of the private jets that are in the world are actually for sale right now. And that's pretty much a normal number. Okay. But transactions are happening slower. Prices have come down a little bit. I don't see them dropping. But I do see once we get over this lockdown thing and the US election, which is another factor which is playing into the market right now. Once those two things are out of the way, I think we will see from like the 10th of November until the end of the year, we're going to see a rush of people buy airplanes. And then first quarter next year, we're going to see a nice big spike, which I think will be higher than 2019.
Is that the same for the charter market as well?
Yeah, they go away together, I would say. Charter obviously is the first place you go to get your feet wet with a private jet. So families, for example, here in Europe, where they wanted to go on holiday and they're saying, you know what, some of these airlines are closing down, whatever, I'll just charter a jet. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. He flew a family out to Athens, never flown private before, and he was flying another family back the next day who had never flown private before. And so you're getting these wealthy families that are worth, I don't know, 50, 60, $100 million that have always flown first class, suddenly start chartering. And as they start to charter, then they start to think, maybe I should lease, maybe I should buy.
Yep.
And so we're noticing this new trend in the market.
Yeah. Fabrizio, I wanted to just mention to you and to your viewers today is we do have a very interesting interview tomorrow with a company called One Flight International, and they're actually based in Denver, Colorado. And they're actually a business jet charter operator. And, they are really experiencing very dramatic growth right now. And they're a membership, kind of an operation where you buy a membership into the operation, and then you have discounted prices in using their jets. And they're really doing quite well. Actually, in June and July, they actually had record profits and record revenues from the increase in business jet flying from all the things you're talking about right now. So anyway, tomorrow will be a great program for people to watch, because we're going to talk about a little bit of the details of people using charter services, business jet charter services, and kind of what's happening in that market as well. But that's really consistent with what you're saying. And
I would say this, Mark. I mean, if you're watching now and you're debating in your mind, shall I buy a private jet or not? What about your competitors? What are they going to be doing? Because, in today's economy, it's all about speed. I mean, if we think about, smartphones, the internet and whatever, it's today you can go on Amazon and order. I mean, we did this experiment a few weeks ago. We went on Amazon and we ordered some salad. The same type of salad we buy at the local supermarket, which is just 10 minutes from the house. An hour later, it was here. And it cost me exactly the same. So
Really?
people want speed. And with the whole COVID-19 lockdown, even the little old lady around the corner has now discovered she can shop on her iPad and have her groceries delivered to her home. I mean, now they're delivering pizzas with drones and all this kind of thing. So speed is really the currency of today. And so the private jet will get you to places quicker than anybody else. So if you don't fly private, or you don't use the private jet as one of your business tools, I bet you your competitor is going to get there before you and get the deal done before you. Now, that's what you've got to start thinking about.
That's a great concept. I think, Mark, what we heard yesterday from Tom, he called it a time machine. He said that, a private jet is a time machine because it saves you time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just really so interesting that I like you thinking about that. Is that what are your competitors doing? Because that's really a great litmus test. Is that what are the other guys doing? Because if I'm going to get there first, and it isn't just necessarily first. If it's anything in business, is that speed really makes a difference. Time to market makes a difference. The product that you do, getting out there before everybody else does. I mean, heaven's sakes, when airlines want to drop prices, the guy that drops the price first is usually the one that makes the most money. All right, because people shift over there and then they keep buying from them. And so there's a lot of things to have to do with that. And I think that your idea is what is the competitor doing, and speed to market or speed to business is really an important consideration.
Now, other thing, you mentioned price, and this is an important thing. Very often people come to me and they're all focused on the private jet. And they don't realize that there are 4 elements to the private jet. The jet is one of them. Then you've got the pilots, the maintenance, and the management company. So you have to make sure that all those work together as a team. Because if the pilot's not, well trained or not well compensated, whatever, he's not going to operate the airplane in the right way. Maybe smooth flight, all those kind of things. It's important, especially if you're sending the plane out to pick up your guests. They want to have a nice experience on the airplane. So your flight attendant, the food that's served on board, all those things come into play. So it's not just about you getting to the meeting. It's about the jet going out, picking the people up, bringing them to you, giving them some nice food on the flight. So by the time they get to your office for the meeting, the deal's practically done. And that's the way you've got to look at it. Because, people will sit there and say, well, let's just do a Zoom meeting. What if you send a jet to pick them up instead and bring them to you instead of doing a Zoom meeting? And that's really the question. And I always say to people, because people get bogged down with a spreadsheet. How much is this thing going to cost me? I'm going to fly 600 hours a year. I need a spreadsheet. Okay, fine. I'll send you the spreadsheet. But let me tell you this. The private jet is very much like innovation. And innovation cannot be measured before. Innovation can only be measured afterwards. So what you need to do is take your balance sheet after 12 to 18 months and go down and say, okay, in 18 months, we did 35 flights. How much did those 35 flights cost me? $12.5 million. Okay, good. How many deals did we do as a consequence of those flights? Oh, we closed 6 deals. Good. How much did we make out of those deals? $250 million. Okay. Would we have done those deals if we had not had the private jet? No. Good. So 250 million minus 12.5. There you go. And that's what Grant Cardone said to me when I interviewed him the first time about when he bought his first private jet, when he went from 250 to $750 million. And then when he sold that and bought the G550, he's now up at over $1.5 billion in real estate. So, and he said, and the jet has been key in growing the business. And Walmart is the same. When you look at Walmart, one of the largest private jet fleets in the world, for a corporation, during the crisis of 2008, 2009, what did Walmart do? They increased their fleet, and they still managed to maintain the price of groceries low at the grocery store for everyone that's watching. So a lot of people don't realize that a lot of people that may shop at Walmart may be critical towards those that use private jets. Well, guess what? That salad you just bought for $1 would cost you $1.20 if they hadn't had a private jet.
Interesting. Hey, Fabrizio, interestingly enough, we had Ryan Seco on the program yesterday, Grant Cardone's chief pilot. And yeah, he was just coming back from his recurrency training for the 550, the G550 in Savannah. And he actually landed and jumped in the car, 45 minutes, showed up just a teeny bit late, jumped on our program, and we had a little interview with him. But he managed to squeeze us into his schedule. And there's no way that he could have ever probably done that, if he didn't have the flexibility of actually flying, So
yeah, exactly.
Really good, really good. Hey, listen, this has been some really, really exciting, conversation. Fabrizio, let me just ask you a couple of other things along these lines. Is that, if I could just ask you this question, is that what's the most compelling reason that people have come to you? You've talked to all kinds of people in the past about they want to buy jets. What's the most compelling reason why people have said I need to buy a jet, and they've actually moved through to actually do it? Not just people that want to buy a jet, but people that actually did it.
Well, I think it's the hassle of airline travel, and the fact you've got to book, you've got to turn up at the terminal so many hours before, you're in these crowds, no privacy. And these are people that are very, very focused, and they want to stay focused. And if you're in an airport terminal with other 3,000 people, by the time you get on the plane, you're pretty tired. And chances of you getting your laptop out and doing some work are very remote, because you're tired and because you don't want other people looking at what you're doing on your laptop. So, they've even done some studies and proven that people are more productive on a private jet than they are in the office. And so the main reason is to get rid of all the hassle, go when you want to go, be with the people that you know on the plane. These are the reasons that are driving people towards private. But I mean, now we've got the health issue as well, which is the other factor, which is driving people into private jet ownership. And as they search it for health reasons, they then discover the other reasons. The problem with the private jet is had very, very bad press. When you switch the TV on, or you open the newspaper, or you turn your computer on, whenever they talk about private jets, it's because it's some celebrity has been on a private jet. And so in people's minds, it's like, oh, it's for celebrities, it's for these people, or look at these people, how like that young lady from Sweden, Greta Thunberg, she's dedicates private jets. But what she doesn't realize is she attacks people like Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk couldn't produce all the electric cars that he produces and do the SpaceX thing if he didn't travel by private jet. Now, yes, I agree that when he flies by private jet, he pollutes the air, but he pollutes the air very little compared to how much non-pollution his cars do, because they're electric.
Yeah,
so there's a balance there. And these
got a lot of carbon credits
that go against people like Elon Musk and the private jet user. They don't understand what the private jet is and what it actually can do. And it's a productivity tool, a time machine. It's a safe way of traveling. It gives you more flexibility, power. You name it how you want to name it. It is a business tool at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But you have to understand how this is going to fit into your business and how do you measure it. And it's not just, oh, it's going to cost me $6.5 million a year to run it. It's an investment. It's an innovation. That $6.5 million of innovation brings you $200 million at the end of the year. That's where you see the return on investment.
Yep. So Fabrizio, the question I have now is that you made reference a couple of times that you've helped people, to make decisions on buying, business jets. And, so what do you do in your own, activities to help people to make decisions to buy business jets? What do you do? How do you get involved in that yourself personally?
Well, what I do is, people watch me on BizJet TV and then they ping me a message, and there's a consultancy call, which they pay for. And I send them ahead of time a series of questions. I then research them and research their company just to get an idea of what they're doing and where they're going and where they need to go. The questions I ask them are things like, where do you plan to go with the private jet? Where are you going in those cities? Because then I can find the right airport to land at, because everybody's thinking of the main airport all the time. And they don't realize that in some cities, there may be another 10 airports which you can land at. So I said, pinpoint me the location where you're going, and then we'll see if there's an airport 5 minutes away and all that kind of thing. So I do a lot of homework before we do the call. And then when I get on the call, we do a video call like we're doing here now. And we talk about the different answers they gave me, and we go a bit more into detail, try and understand the psychology behind and the reasoning and what their objective is in acquiring the aircraft. I sold a Boeing 777 to an individual a few years ago, and this was quite funny because he already had 5 airplanes and a bunch of helicopters. And the reason why he wanted a Boeing 777, that he wanted to turn from an airline into a VVIP aircraft, was because he could. The guy was worth $4 million. He just wanted to add another plane to his collection. And in that case, you just get him what he wants. But most of the time, people have a need. And so when people have a need, you really need to pay attention. I mean, when someone just comes in there and says, I don't care, get me the Boeing 777, 250 million for the jet, I don't care. Here's the money, just do it. It was literally like that. And when it's like that, you just give them what they want. But, those type of deals are very rare. I would say out of 100, you probably get 2 or 3 like that. Most people come to the table having a need. And you've got to be very meticulous and very careful to make sure that you're giving them what they need and not what they want, because they'll go on and on and on. And like this guy the other day was sending me all these things about this other airplane. And I'm like, this is the wrong airplane for you. I'm sorry, but let's go through the process here. Let's look at the answers you gave to the questions. And let's look at the ultimate, because, they don't understand airplanes. They don't understand, pressurization in the cabin, which is another element, which I always talk about. When you're on an airline, and most airliners are pressurized at 8,000 feet altitude. So it's like you're sitting on top of a mountain, an 8,000-foot mountain for 10 hours. One of the most common effects of jet lag is not so much the time zone change, it's the pressurization. So on private jets, you can get anywhere from, 4,000 to 6.5 or even 8,000 feet in the cabin, depending on the type of airplane. Now, if you're on an 8, 9, 10-hour flight and you're sitting at 4,500 feet instead of 8,000 feet, when you get off that airplane, because more oxygen in the cabin, more oxygen circulating, your whole body is functioning a lot better at 4,500 feet instead of at 8,000 or 6,000 feet. And that is an element which is important as well, which is what I say to people. It's a peak performance machine. So let's look at how you're going to feel as a result of flying in that plane. Forget the shape, forget the avionics. You get in the plane, let's look at the cabin. How are you going to feel in that cabin with the other 2 people or 5 people, depending on how many people usually travel with you? Let's understand that as well. Are you going to do a lot of flights at night or during the day? Where you're going to be going? You're landing on short airstrips or long airstrips, in the mountains, at sea level? These are all things that need to be, answered in order for me to be able to be very specific and give you exactly what you need. And that process takes a bit of time. And it's always different. It's always different. You can't, every single deal is different. And that's the beauty of it. But, that just makes people understand that, you can't just ask me on YouTube or on an email, what's the best airplane for me? There's quite a few questions you need to answer first.
I see that. So basically it's custom tailored to every individual's personal situation.
Yeah, very much.
Needs and, a lot of different factors. So ultimately, Fabrizio, you are actually in the business of right now. One of the things that you're in, of many, it sounds like, is in the business of helping people determine what business jets to acquire. Is what you're
doing. Exactly. Yeah, and then source on the market what's right for them. We're in the process now of raising capital to go and buy a bunch of airplanes we're going to refurbish and then either resell or lease out. I think the leasing market, when I say leasing, I mean leasing for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. I think that's going to be a product that a lot of people will resonate with, because again, you don't have to outlay the cash to buy the airplane. We do that, and then we lease it to you for whatever term you want it. And the lease contract's 3 pages, by the way, so it's very quick and easy to do. Yeah.
Just for clarification, though, I just want to make it clear to people out there: you don't sell airplanes right now. You're thinking about maybe doing that in the future, but right now,
no. We do sell airplanes as well. We sell airplanes, we lease airplanes, we consult, we can do all that.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. Well, listen, Fabrizio, we're running to the end of our time here, on this program right now. And I can't tell you how much, how exciting it's been. It's actually been really interesting, to have this conversation, because Larry and I have been in search of the things in the industry which are growing. Okay. We've been in search of the things in the aviation industry which have the opportunity for people to acquire new revenue and for them to be able to find ways to reduce cost. And business jets is definitely a place which has, hit that radar. And there's been so much discussion, whether they be software providers or whether they be people that are involved in flying, or, all around this space of business jets right now is a place right now in our economy where there's demand. All right. And so, the exciting part of your discussion is that you're talking about a place where there's demand. And so, it's interesting because software providers are moving toward that space right now. And, I know that things are short term sometimes, and sometimes they're long term, but, we really believe that with the projections of the commercial travel being out further than what we'd really like for it to be, this is going to be more long-term solutions than it is short-term solutions. Okay. And so, so we really believe that what you're going after right now is really a great target market, and we're excited for you, and it's a great place for you to be. Hey, listen, Fabrizio, let me just tell you is that for all the people that are out there watching here today, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, you can reach out to me on email at fabrizio.poli@kaizenaerospace.com.
Yep.
That's the best way. Just ping me an email and then I'll get back to you, and then we can schedule a call if that's what you're looking for. And then we can take you through the private jet acquisition journey or lease or whatever it may be.
That's great. Hey, and in addition to that, so on our website also, which is for our recovery and aviation site, we also have an agenda item where we had you on the agenda, and we put on there a button. And if somebody is watching this on our platform, which is live.recoveryandaviation.com, there's a button that they can press and they can put in their name and their email, and it'll actually reach out to you. And so then we're forwarding those leads to you, so that people can reach out to you. So if you're watching on our platform, live.recoveryandaviation.com, go ahead and go down, look at the agenda, find Fabrizio Poli, and hit that button if you're interested in entering into a conversation with him about business jets. And we'd really appreciate it if you would engage with him, because we're all really trying to work together to be able to create recovery in aviation. And clearly, Fabrizio is in a position where that's happening, right now. Fabrizio, thank you. And I really appreciate you taking time to be able to allow us to simulcast and broadcast on your YouTube channel at the same time as we're doing this. And then I wanted to just wrap this up by telling everybody who's been watching our videos for the last couple of days is that we're doing videos over a 3-day period, all right? And that we're running 15 to 18 hours a day, and we have 61 different thought leaders like Fabrizio who are bringing strategies and tactics in these sessions and helping people to understand how we can drive recovery in aviation. And we know that not everyone can watch every video that we have. And so what we're actually doing is we're actually recording these videos from these live sessions, and we're putting them into a portal where people can go access them as recorded videos later on. And so for a very nominal fee, we're actually providing access to that portal where you can go there and watch those videos after the fact. So if you're on our platform where it says live.recoveryandaviation.com, there's a button there that says all access pass upgrade. And for a very small fee, you can actually get access to all the videos and all the knowledge and all the mentorship that's come from all the people that have been on this virtual summit, this free virtual summit for 3 days. Hey, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. In just about 25 minutes, we have our next session, which is coming up, and it's with a European company called eWings, very innovative, and they've shifted their business model as a result of what's happening out there. They've moved from doing blockchain to doing some other innovative things. And if you're interested in carbon credits, join us in this next session, and I think you'll find it interesting. Fabrizio, thank you so much for giving us your time. We really appreciate you being with us on this broadcast.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Larry. Thank you.
Bye now.